This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage.
Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from South Point in Las Vegas, Sin City, Nevada, in the United States. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the February 10th, 2025 edition. I think I posted February 9th, but we are February 10th. And this edition of RamView, of course, is brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at Temple City Auto Repair.com. And here we are. Thank you, guys. Some of you have clicked on. Fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be a real short ride here, but drop your questions. I am working off my laptop, and there's not a lot going on in the sense that other than picking up pieces from the first blowout since the Buccaneers blew out the Chiefs way back when, about 5 years ago. That one was pretty brutal. But last night, I felt like watching that Super Bowl, I felt like having shirts made saying I survived everything that was preached at me prior to Super Bowl 59. I never felt like there was less content, less breakdown, and it was all about telling me how to feel and preaching at me. And as the game went on, all I could think about as we watched the Chiefs just fall apart there, all I thought about, and guys, it's going to sound redundant, but I'm a bitter man sometimes, 13 yards and a point after was all kept. And a young Bo Limmer looking left instead of right is all that kept the Rams from being Super Bowl champions. I firmly believe that. They had the Eagles on the ropes. They should have beat the Eagles, and they would have beat this Chiefs team with that performance. We saw it, right? Did Jalen Hurts look like he looked yesterday? No. Did Jalen Hurts look like he looked against the Texans? No. And it's just an opportunity that slipped through their hands. You know, you're not blaming a sixth-round kid. God bless Bo Limmer, but that's how close it was. And in spite of the snow, the Kyron Williams fumble, the Matt Stafford fumble, and the two home runs by Saquon Barkley. And that's kind of where we're going to begin. We're going to do a minute little bit of Ram talk. I have borrowed the room because I've sent the Mid-Valley staff out of here as I don't have a studio. Yeah, somehow I'm not big enough wheel in Las Vegas to get my own studio. But some Ram stuff just to think about before we dive into the Super Bowl. We got about a month. The new free agency period, the new NFL season starts March 12th. It's February 10th. So we got about a month. I expect things to be quiet for about 7 to 10 days. And then we're going to see all sorts of things start happening. The key for the Rams, I think right now, is Alaric Jackson. I think with Aaron Rodgers going on the market, that creates a little bit of an issue there where Matthew Stafford wants to go. Rodgers can decide to go somewhere that might be the best option, Pittsburgh, and they're not going to have to pay as much again, right? And Stafford's going to cost something if a team wants Stafford. So that's going to be interesting. The Alaric Jackson deal is the deal. And then, of course, the emotional one that everyone's upset about. My brother sent me a nasty emoji because he said, what are we going to do about Cooper Kupp? And I said, Cooper who? And so we just have to get realization here that Cooper Kupp is gone. And so that's kind of where we're at on that. But let's get to the Super Bowl real quick. Super Bowl stuff. Watching the game, just about the game itself. I got a whole ton of information here that I'm happy to get into about the ridiculousness before the game. If you want to read that, I wrote about 50 notes on a Super Bowl scorecard. Go to midvalleysports.com. It should be right there on the homepage. If not, click on FanView, and you'll see my column there and get most of it. The Eagles did not even need Saquon Barkley to beat the Chiefs yesterday. That's how good they were, right? That's how good they were. Steve Spagnuolo contained Barkley, But Jalen Hurts was that good. The front four was that good. But I tell you, 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off. That's now you know why you get 2 weeks off before the Super Bowl. 2 weeks ago, the Eagles' offensive line was struggling. The Rams put 7 sacks on the Eagles, right? The Commanders, the Texans got to Jalen Hurts, and not even the Chiefs could do that because that offensive line played great. Jalen Hurts deserves all the MVP is great, but if they wanted to give it to Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham, and the front four, knock yourself out. I would have been all for it. If they wanted to give it to the offensive line, knock yourself out and give it to them. But it was so funny is that they would have won this game with Miles Sanders. They would have won this game with Poe James. They would have won this game with Wilbert Montgomery, right? They would have won this game without them. Now, Saquon Barkley got them there. I do agree. Some of my friends pushed back and said the idea that you had to account for Saquon Barkley, but they did a masterful job. And the Chiefs didn't adjust, and we'll get into that. A second point I made early on, it doesn't really reflect in the overall numbers for A.J. Brown, but early on, it seemed like the Eagles decided that A.J. Brown was better than Kansas City cornerback Trent McDuffie, who's a fantastic corner. Brown had only 3 catches or so, I think. He had the touchdown, of course, but they were all important, and they were all at key moments, and Trent McDuffie couldn't stop him. Could not stop him. Now, I'll go into a thing here about that, but yeah, the Eagles just said, we're going with Trent McDuffie. This was one of the things that surprised me in the playoff game is, and I credit the Rams defense, right? Credit the Rams pass rush, is A.J. Brown wasn't a factor, not a real huge factor in that game against the Eagles in the divisional round in the snow, but A.J. Brown was huge in the game where they blew out the Rams, and we saw the Rams couldn't cover him with Darius Williams. And the Chiefs, even with Trent McDuffie, they couldn't cover A.J. Brown. Eagles led 24-0 at the half, but let's be realistic. 14 of those points were all on the KC offense. The interceptions by Mahomes, the pick 6 by Cooper DeJean, and then the first touchdown the Eagles scored. Let's be honest on that. 4th down, the whole narrative of the Chiefs getting all the calls went right out the window on that personal foul call on McDuffie. That was an egregious call that led right to a touchdown. Otherwise, they're down 24-0 at the end of the first half. 21 of those points, you can't charge them to the defense. You charge the defense 3 points. The problem was in the second half, they started to crack because they were on the field so long because the Chiefs offense couldn't get going. And that was an interesting thing. My 4th point, the Chiefs didn't even seem to try to run the ball early. They made no adjustments when the Eagles started teeing off on Patrick Mahomes. They didn't go to tempo. They didn't go to a short passing game. In fact, some of those long shots that you'd see on a Mahomes sack, you realize everyone's 15 to 20 yards down the field. And it was never a case of, hey, let's speed things up a little bit. Let's dump the ball off to our backs. Let's get quick hitters and get this ball moving and then tire out that Philly defense, something the Rams did in the divisional round. All this game, my 5th point was Kansas City's performance proved to me that Los Angeles could have won the Super Bowl. The Rams could have won the Super Bowl. 13 yards and a point after. I'll always remember that was the difference between the Rams watching on Super Bowl Sunday or winning on Super Bowl Sunday. And that was a major bummer ski. Hey guys, thanks for joining me in this awkward place. It's very unprofessional, but maybe you guys could write to South Point to let me use one of their studios next year. Tim Burns, thank you for joining me. Any hangover, Joe? No, believe it or not, one of my friends said he was going to stay right here around the corner and then pop in and say, Joe, it's time to go look for strippers and cocaine. I told him that really wouldn't work real well. Tim Burns, we saw Taylor Swift more than the Kelsey's jersey. He was MIA. Yeah, that was funny. There's some interesting reactions I'll get to on the other side here. Rob Sore, Steeler fan Rob in Missouri. If this and if that. Hey, Steeler fan Rob, that's the pot calling the kettle black. You should hear yourself all the time, right? It's your OC's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. I was this close to the Super Bowl. Let's see. Tim Burns, I am grateful for Verse, but can you see why my choice for the first round pick last year was Cooper DeJean? A beast. Yeah, he was great. He was great. I'm not arguing that with you at all. But let's be honest, brother. We're not giving back verse, right? We're not giving back verse. Robert Steeler fan Rob, the Eagles beat the Rams twice, and they'll do it again next season. And the Lions and the Packers. Oh, I forgot. Steeler fan Rob is suddenly Eagle fan Rob, right? Eagle fan Rob. Tim Birds, Reed looked lost. Okay, that's a great point there, Mr. Burns. I'm sitting at the table with the Mid-Valley guys, and I'm saying, don't you feel like Reed's going to make an adjustment and they're going to get this thing figured out? Reed lost was legit. I think that was legit. Willie Bowen, Joe, do you think that Josh Palmer could fill the slot Cup had occupied? I like Josh Palmer, but I'm definitely leaning more Jordan Whittington on that one. I like Josh Palmer. I do. I wouldn't mind having Josh Palmer at the right price, but he gets hurt a lot and he's just a little bit ceilinged. We know what he is. Steve Ramirez, I remember in Harvey Martin, Randy White were co-MVPs in Super Bowl 12. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I just wasn't sure who to give it to. But yeah, that's exactly right, Steve. Super Bowl 12. They made life miserable for Craig Morton. Yeah, poor Craig Morton. Willie Bowen disagrees with Steeler fan Rob. Okay, a couple other things. We'll talk more Super Bowl because there was all kinds of stuff there. Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers, and that was the thing about that clouds the market a little bit for Matthew Stafford. I do not understand. I actually, my opinion of Matthew Stafford would change if he decided to go to the Giants, who are nowhere close, and then he's going to be in the division with the Eagles, and he's going to be in the division with the Taxkins, and he's 37. By the time that rebuild's done, he's not going to win. So I would be shocked if he goes to the Giants for money. The team that could make sense, I don't know if Steeler fan Rob wants it because, he'd have a heart attack if a Ram quarterback went to Pittsburgh and won a Super Bowl. But Pittsburgh's not close, but they're closer than the Giants. But Aaron Rodgers makes the field a little more muddy right now in terms of that's another guy to consider. Rodgers, who played fairly well down the stretch, Rodgers with a strong personality and strong coach, comes in on the cheap to Pittsburgh. You got Tomlin, who ain't going to take any garbage. And then you get him somebody other than George Pickens. I'll tell you what, we'll give you Cooper Kupp for a first-round draft choice. Now, we know. But they get some receivers there, someone in the draft to help Aaron Rodgers out. He doesn't like young guys, but he's just trying to hang on for another payday or another trip to the Super Bowl. He a fit there. 49ers have given Deebo Samuel permission to seek a trade. This is a win for the Rams. We talked about that Super Bowl window for the 49ers starting to close. This is a huge win for the Rams and the rest of the NFC. Deebo Samuel is a guy that's always hurt the Rams. He was banged up this year. It's typical stuff, the way they use him. And he was a great utility piece. He wasn't a great receiver. He's not an elite receiver, but he always found a way to hurt the Rams. And if he leaves, he's looking for a trade. What do the 49ers do? They're going to depend on Ricky Pearsall, who has a great story. But did you see anything in Ricky Pearsall that made you think, they got their guy? And then, of course, Brandon Ayuk, who they're paying all the money to. Brandon Ayuk on his best day is not Puka Nacua. Brandon Ayuk on his best day, he's not A.J. Brown. Brandon Ayuk, really? So this is good news for the Rams as that 49er situation starts to crumble. Looking forward to seeing that happen. And I haven't heard anything yet on Kellen Moore being named head coach of the Saints. If you guys hear something, let me know. Tim Burns, Xavier Worthy is that guy. There's the funny part there. Did you feel like they waited and waited? Now, the touchdowns at the end, those were nice catches and everything by Xavier Worthy. I tell you, when they scored the touchdown, made it 34-6, I actually made a note. I love the way Worthy just got up and threw the ball down. He didn't do a dance, didn't pat his chest, didn't do anything. That showed a lot of maturity. I thought Xavier Worthy, they didn't run any reverses to him. They didn't run any short routes to him. They didn't do anything. Now, that could have been Quinyon Mitchell. That could have been Cooper DeJean, but they just didn't use him. They also had Hollywood Brown. DeAndre Hopkins was absent until the second half, and I don't think that's his fault either. I think they were trying to go linear when they should have just been doing tempo. Somebody correct me. You guys are football guys. Correct me. Don't you think they should have just sped things up? And they didn't. There should have been a little more pounding with the thing I learned, well, we all learned, I think we all knew before, and it wasn't the same case, but you still have to run the ball in some fake way, even if you're getting 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, you still got to run the ball. And they got away from the run. I don't even know what the final run count was. I think it was 3 in the first half. And yeah, I thought they panicked early. And again, my bad. I'm a Sirianni guy. I thought the matchup between Sirianni and Andy Reid was and that ain't happening, right? That's primetime Jerry Tarkanian UNLV against USC with Stan Morrison. It's just not a match. It's a blowout, right? And yet Sirianni rose to the occasion, and Andy Reid, as Tim Burns said, looked lost. The other one was, hey, Patrick Mahomes. You know, I love it how everyone's off the Patrick Mahomes. Now he's nowhere near Brady, blah, 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 this, that, or the other. Okay, whatever. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. But Jalen Hurts played better than Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts is a guy who holds on the ball late. Jalen Hurts is a guy that doesn't make quick decisions. Jalen Hurts is a leader. Jalen Hurts is in shape. Jalen Hurts is a good dude. Jalen Hurts is a guy that you want to be leading your organization. I agree with all that. Happy for him. Not upset about that part at all. But who would have thought Jalen Hurts would have completely trounced Patrick Mahomes in terms of performance on Sunday? He was fantastic. And so, yeah, really a weird day in terms of how all that stuff broke down. Gosh, we got some listeners today, guys. Thank you for joining me. Bill, thank you for being here. Samuels in Adams, former Jets Samuels and Devontae Adams, former Jet for 49ers. Help me with that one. Maybe I'm reading it wrong there. You're talking about they go after Devontae Adams, or do you talk about the Rams go for Samuels? That would be interesting. Tim Burns, truth. With 11 minutes left, Mahomes' quarterback rating was 13.9 and ended at 95 garbage time. Stat padding, Angel Reese. Yeah, those were some nice bombs. Xavier Worthy looked good. Michael Negretti, hola, Joe. What would you think of the Rams signing Aaron Rodgers? I would rather go down on the Titanic than sign Aaron Rodgers. I think it would be a step back. I do. You know, well, what is the reason I say this is Aaron Rodgers has to go to the right organization where he's going to listen. It's not he tells me, no, I tell you. And I've had this happen. First time somebody I'm in charge of rolls their eyes at me, they're gone. First time somebody, if I had somebody that I went to embrace and then he pushed me back like Rodgers did Saleh last year, I don't care. You're gone because you're threatening my leadership. You're gone. And so I just don't know if he's that kind of guy. And would he swallow his ego enough to let Sean McVay run the show? That's something to think about. I'd rather go with Jimmy G, actually, than Aaron Rodgers. Bill, Rams brass need to watch the Eagles and Rams tape and fix what must be fixed. Bro, you're right. I agree with you. Bo Limmer going back. I got Jalen Carter. I got Simmons over here. I'm looking here, and then I look left, and then Carter blows by. It's like playing basketball. You're playing man-to-man, right? Always keep your eye when you're playing man-to-man. Your eyes between the ball and your man, right? You're on the floor kind of, and you're looking at both. Then you got your hand up to see if you're the guy you're guarding is going back door, so you can open up and defend him. And Limmer lost him. Now I know Dev Dotson might play some hand in that, but if Limmer stays where he is, Jalen Carter doesn't get that free run. Jalen Carter doesn't get that free run. Willie Bowen, do you think Devontae Adams would be a good fit for the Rams? Yes, I think he'd be a great fit. He got his bread, right? He has to take a salary reduction. He has to decide he wants to play for a champion. But I think he'd be a great fit for the Rams. But why pay him that money? I just wouldn't pay him that money. Not at all. So he'd have to be willing to say, hey, into my career, I want to play for a championship. That's what he'd have to do. Let's see, Michael DeGretti. No to Adams. I'd say yes to Adams before I said yes to Rodgers. It's the pesos. It's the salary cap thing that you'd have to worry about for me. Steve Ramirez. Let's see here. Let's see. The Eagles jumped on the Chiefs so quick, Sirianni never got a chance to look like a jerk. There you go. There's some truth to that. Hey, is my camera messed up here? I get to see. There's something there in my camera. It just looks like you're not seeing me clearly. Maybe it's just the lighting. But yeah, they just fell all over them, right? And Eagles are weird. Again, there was that scene I talked about a month ago where an assistant coach is telling Sirianni he can't talk to a player. Man, that stops the train in its tracks for me. I'm sorry. I'll blow up everything if I'm leading. But they won. I think I described them as the 78 Yankees. They were so dysfunctional, but when it came to game time, they won. Didn't work out. They couldn't stop them, and so the Eagles won. I got to give them credit, right? Tim Burns, Rodgers didn't respect Jets. Yep, there you go. I think the 49ers will pursue Adams from the Jets. They don't have, again, if he goes to the 49ers, he's going to have to adjust his contract because they got salary cap issues as well. And they got issues at left tackle. They got issues at edge. They got issues along the defensive front. Did you see Eric Armstead got Walter Payton Man of the Year this year? He was part of that front, right, that they had. Javon Hargrave, Bosa. Well, Javon Hargrave is going to be a June 1st designated cut. And Eric Armstead, they put in the street last year. They got a big donut hole in the middle of that defense. They've got problems there in Frisco, which is marvelous, isn't it? ESG. Oh, thank you for joining us. Why not interest from the Rams, Myles Garrett? We talked about that last week. What would you give up? I wouldn't want to give up any of my young guys. I wouldn't throw Byron Young in that deal. And, I think like somebody said, I think Diane Rossini said it off the top. They said, let's get over the ridiculousness of thinking that Myles Garrett's going to, get 3 number ones in return. I'd give Myles Garrett. I'd give a number 1 to the Browns and maybe a 3rd rounder. I'd give a number 1 and Cooper Kupp to them. But I certainly wouldn't give more than that. He's got 2 years left on his contract. It's reasonable. It's 19 and 21 rocks, someplace in there. He would make our defense next level, out of sight, unbelievable. But he wants to win for a championship, so he'd have to play ball with us as far as an extension. I like Myles Garrett. But to trade for Myles Garrett means I want to make sure you got Stafford back in the house and you got Alaric Jackson back in the house. Bill, I got the vibe that Joe Burrow will play in the Horns. What do you think? Really? You think Joe Burrow would? Sooner or later, if this blows up, it's going to be interesting, right? He said, they got to sign Jamar Chase, they got to sign T. Higgins, and they got to sign Trey Hendrickson. And he said he's willing to restructure his contract. We're going to find out real fast because if 2 of those 3 leave, who knows? You could see a moment where he has his Carson Palmer moment, right? Where he says, I want out. If he can stay healthy, I'd love to see him in Horns. I would. I think he's a bit of a punk. I like more of a guy that's not, I don't really want to see how a guy dresses walking in the stadium, right? And I think he's got that kind of image. I'm not into that. Some people are, but he had a heck of a year. Let's see here. Tim Burns, there's some weird looking dude on the screen. So I think the camera is fine. Okay. All right. Another one of my friends wanted to lay in the bed back there and just look at his phone like this while I was working. And then all of a sudden, 15 minutes in, yell, Joe, come back to bed. It was just going to be so gross. So I threw his butt out. So there we go. Steve Ramirez. I think with Rodgers leaving the Jets, Garrett Wilson will likely not be available, which is a big hit for the Rams. It'll be interesting, right, how they play it, because you need Garrett Wilson there to attract a quarterback. That's the interesting one. We've been seeing in a lot of mock drafts Shedeur Sanders falling, and he's falling to number 6 to the Raiders. The 7th pick belongs to the Jets. And don't we have to believe the Jets are in the quarterback market right now, right? Would the Jets maybe make a play for a lesser quarterback that they think, remember, Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl as a 2nd-round pick. Do they think maybe if a Jackson Dart moves up, they can grab him? Do they think maybe a Dylan Gabriel? I'm not saying draft them in the 7th spot, but maybe pick them up in the 2nd round or on the cheap someplace else. That would be interesting. You need Garrett Wilson there to make to make the Jets attractive for a quarterback. I do believe you. Let's see. Tim Burns, you called it. 49ers are hamstrung unless the cap opens up a lot this year. Yeah, I think that they are, because they got the wrong people they're paying. They're paying the wrong people. Nick Bosa is making way too much money. Fred Warner should not be making that much money. They're going to lose. We had Tommy Huxley in here last week. They're going to lose Hufanga. Their belief up there in Fog Cities, they're going to lose Hufanga. So now they got to work at safety again, right? And they did extend Lamore, but Charvarius Ward is going to be a cap casualty, and so we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Let me see. Look at the 49ers here. They've had some great drafts. Jair Brown is a safety that played really well. Dominic Puny, the right guard, is going to replace John Feliciano. He's played well. But they're saying Aaron Banks, left guard, is gone, which means their whole left side of their offensive line, Trent Williams. I mean, Trent Williams is going to come back. They gave him the extension, but he broke down last year. We talked about it. Did you expect Christian McCaffrey to have a third consecutive healthy season? He hardly played last year. And now you got to pay. It's coming up pretty soon where you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. But they've voided the contracts of Javon Hargrave, Charvarius Ward, Trey Greenlaw, Tashawn Gibson. Yeah, there's a lot of influx there, and that 49er defense isn't as imposing or intimidating as it once was. Something, again, to think about. All right, real quick here, guys. You know who I am. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I guess I am again a little bit. I'm doing columns at midvalleysports.com. I write books. And, of course, our sponsor, the fantastic Paul Kistler at Kistler Law. They're the ones that support us and make this thing a go. So we're appreciated to all of our support. But it helps me in my day job. My day job is I pastor a church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And we are right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. So every time you buy a book, every time you support our sponsors, like Kistler Law, you help keep us on the air. We don't have a paywall. We don't have a Patreon account. And so we do appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys watching me in this hotel room in Vegas. Best part about Vegas, let's see. We went to Silverado here at the Point, at South Point. Great steakhouse. Fantastic. I had a prime rib empanada. You got to do it. It's fantastic. I'm actually going to hit a Gordon Ramsay. I'm going to get my beef Wellington in about an hour and a half. So I'm looking forward to that. But thank you for hanging with us today. Let's see what else we got here real quick. Let's see. Bill, do the Rams hold on to their picks or make a blockbuster trade? What do you think? I think it's really up in the air. You know, everybody's projecting Rams taking a tackle. Another projection today. I probably won't go that long to get to the mock draft from The Athletic that dropped today. Number 26, they got the Rams taking Josh Connerly, the tackle out of Oregon, 6'4", 315, two-year starter. Strictly played left tackle in college, but The Athletic argued that he has the ability to play anywhere along the offensive line. And I quote, a traits-heavy prospect who could blossom into a star. And honestly, at number 26, with where the Rams are right now, I don't want somebody who's got all the traits. I want somebody who is a star. And we know you're not going to get that necessarily at 26, so we got to re-sign Alaric Jackson. Got to get the whole deal taken care of with Matthew Stafford, and then we go from there in terms of deals and trades. Because if everything works out with Jackson and Stafford, then you can look at a wide receiver at number 26, you know, the whole dream of, you know, Garrett Wilson, or you can make a deal at 26, bring in a big-time guy. That would be great. They need somebody there. And then you've got Jordan Whittington and a name, and then Puka Nacua, and whoa, suddenly we're in business. Maybe draft a tight end. We'll see what happens from there. Maybe draft another running back. We'll see what happens there. I got to believe after these last couple of years, Sean McVay is not going to let in the draft class go by without taking some offensive players at the top, right? Interesting thing in that Athletic draft, which was just something that you're seeing in terms of trend. More and more, you're seeing Abdul Carter, the Penn State guy, going number 1 to the Titans. You're seeing Travis Hunter go second. I think that's to the Browns. And number 3, Cam Ward. So pushing back Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders. Cam Ward going number 3 to the Giants. That's a trend. Number 6, Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders. That's 4 of the last 5 mock drafts that I've looked at that been produced by some of these platforms have had Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders. But now it's interesting with the Jets. The Jets have the 7th overall pick. And will they be doing something to move up? Are they going to look at something in the 2nd and 3rd round? I just don't believe they're competing right now. So they might want to build with a Jackson Dart. And it'll be interesting to see, does a Jalen Milroe impress in his pro day and combine? Does a Jackson Dart? I got to think you're going to see, especially with Dart, you're going to see him move up the board. Same with Dylan Gabriel. I don't think he's going to go first round. I think Dart could move to the end of the first round, but I could see Dylan Gabriel moving deeper into the 2nd. Something to think about. That same athletic one that had Shedeur Sanders at 6, the Jets at number 7 now are going to be interesting to watch. There's a trend there. Amron Membu, he's an offensive tackle. They had him going to the Bears. That's a trend. Frisco has Josh Simmons at number 11. Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. That's a trend. I've seen several mock drafts have the Colts taking him, maybe looking for the next Dallas Clark. And at number 31, they have the Chiefs taking Donovan Jackson, the guard who moved to left tackle that replaced Josh Simmons in the run for Ohio State. Ironic, though, that they would draft him. I wonder what they would draft him at, because the Chiefs made their Super Bowl run by moving Joe Thuney from left guard to left tackle. And so you wonder what they're thinking with Devon Jackson. And then the other Donovan Jackson. And then the Eagles, which is interesting as well. They project them taking the guy out of East Carolina, Siobhan Revell Jr. And I guess they're figuring Darius Slay's days are numbered, because they hit gold with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in this year's draft. So yeah, pretty fascinating stuff there. Let's see what else we got here, guys. Let's see. Tim Burns. I don't want Miles. I like our guys. Free agent nose tackle. Miles Garrett, I think, makes us look like the 2000 Ravens, but a free agent nose tackle, or some kind of nose tackle, some kind of toilet clogger. He's the guy that can seal the deal as a Super Bowl defense. I think we are a Super Bowl defense, but you just need to stop him in the middle. So however you get that, by hook or Herbert Crook, draft, free agency, re-signing Bobby Brown and bringing in another fat body like him, they need something like that. Willie Bowen. Joe, did you get a chance to play the big wheel in casino? No, I haven't, man. My wife will let me spend. I bought a pair of New Balance at an outlet store. I had that great steak the other night at Silverado. I went to the Super Bowl party, and I'm going to Gordon Ramsay. I'm going to have a beef Wellington, maybe 2 Wellingtons. I don't know. But if I go back and gamble, which I just don't gamble, my wife will be all over me. Michael Negretti, we need a tight end. Okay, so we let Hunter Long walk. Do we cut Colby Parkinson? Does Tyler Higbee retire? Do we put Colby Davis Allen in the street? That's something to think about. Steve Ramirez. So would you trade down to the 2nd round and pick up Gabriel while picking up another in the top 100? I want Jackson Dart. I'll let somebody else draft Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan Gabriel's going to have a long career as a backup. I don't see him as a full-time starter. I know people are hot for him. And hey, we could be wrong, right? Hey, let's remember this. Tua, who's a good quarterback, was so good at Alabama, he chased Jalen Hurts to Oklahoma and eventually to the 2nd round to Philly, and he won a Super Bowl. So I'm not all in on Dylan Gabriel, but I am in on Jackson Dart. But I'm also for picking up more picks in the top 100. What do you think, Steve? Willie Bowen. The LA Rams must get a strong power fullback in the backfield with Kyron Williams. I don't know if they're going to do that. I'd like to see, can they convert one of their big bodies into an occasional guy, right? Ooh, Vita Vea, right? Vita Vea would be a great toilet clogger. Mr. Negretti, that would be awesome. Yes, that would be awesome. All right, guys, let me see how long I've gone here. I've gone over 30 minutes, which I didn't think I would. Let me just look at a couple things here. What did you guys think of the Super Bowl? Here's a question I have for you. Now that he's turning 30, has Patrick Mahomes turned a corner? He turns 30 next September. I'm not saying he's done. I'm saying he's not in his 20s anymore. And now, does it feel like we're looking at the backside of Patrick Mahomes' career? And when does Andy Reid pull the plug, or does he ride out the Mahomes run? Or does he do a solid for the next coach that comes in and says, you know what, man, I'm retiring, but I bequeath you, right? As Bill Walsh bequeathed Joe Montana and Steve Young to George Seifert, does Andy Reid hand over Patrick Mahomes and his playbook to the guy that follows him? Something to think about. Let's see. The Chiefs need another tight end to pair with Noah Gray. I think we've all kind of figured, isn't it pretty much done? Travis Kelce? I think so. Kansas City needs to go in this draft, takes an offensive tackle, definitely. That's what the simulator said. But also, I think they may need another receiver. I think they do. I think they need a receiver they can build with. And let me ask you this. Did any of you think Jalen Hurts would win a Super Bowl before Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? I still don't think he's a great passer, but Hurts is someone who leads, works hard, and stays cool in pressure. So give him all respect. A.J. Brown happened to be out of Tennessee. And another note I made that I thought was kind of funny. Can you imagine the sick feeling Joe Shane and the Giants have watching Saquon Barkley win the Super Bowl? Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So there you go. All right, let's take a few more questions, guys, and then we'll wrap this puppy up and go from there. Let's see here. Tim Burns, get 10 silver dollars, 2 on 31, 32, 33, and the corners. Roulette, Jameis Ginger. Dude, you know, part of my ordination stuff is I don't gamble. Now, gambling's never been an issue with me because I never had any money to gamble, and I don't know how to gamble. But between my denomination and my wife, you know, I don't want to be unemployed. Can any of you let me live on your couch if I go gamble and lose everything? Because that would be basically where I'm at. Tim Burns, Mahomes has 10 years. He had a bad game. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying he's done, but he's 30 now, and he's such a veteran quarterback now that do we look at him as the gray beard after a while, right? Do we look at him as the gray beard? The one thing I will say is that I think as he goes further, he might need to work on being in shape a little bit better. Something to think about. With Kendricks and Tomlinson coming back, it's going to be interesting to see who gets cut. Yeah. It would be. Who gets cut. I know who you're talking about there. You're talking about wait a second, I'm lost. Kendricks and Tomlinson. I'm talking about Rams tight. I think you were talking Rams tight ends, right? Parkinson and Higbee and Davis Allen. Is that who we were talking about? And then let's see. Tim Burns, Cat Lady Flu got Travis Kelce. It's terminal. So you believe it's over for Travis Kelce? Because I believe it's over for Travis Kelce. Michael Negretti, the Rams should trade back in the first round and pick up a second rounder. Draft Jackson Dart in the second round. Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm easier with Jackson Dart than I am with Dylan Gabriel. And I could be wrong, but that's just where I'm at. I'll go 2 more minutes. Did anyone wonder as you're watching the game, did you feel like you were being preached at? I felt like that whole pregame, and then even during the course of the game, I felt like you could come to my church for a month of Sundays and you would never be preached at as much as we were preached at. That Snoop Dogg, Tom Brady thing about hate and everything was absolutely ridiculous. Brady should have been embarrassed being in that commercial. The whole, again, everything's about touching the feelings. Everything's about showing you care. You got touch. You got feelings. The whole New Orleans is resilient thing. It just wears thin. I can tell you this. I was in this venue with more than a few hundred people in the room, every color of the rainbow, very diverse group of people. No one paid attention to anything until America the Beautiful. No one paid attention to anything. And then when they sang America the Beautiful, everyone was into that. The national anthem, and then after the national anthem, we think the game's going to start. They bring out Cam Jordan to talk about the terrorist attack again. And then almost to cover their bases, they talk about every disaster that happened in the United States since last fall. And everybody groaned when they did the Black national anthem. I'm not asking you guys to solve that issue right here. So we don't need to get into that debate. But when they did the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice, nobody paid attention. Nobody cared. And we're talking African American, Hispanic, everybody. Nobody cared. It was almost like it was a joke. And then all the PSAs about hate, all the PSAs about I am somebody, the Nike ad about girls being as good as boys in football. I mean, it just wore thin. I did not see the halftime show. So, Mr. Burns, I did not see the halftime show. I decided to go down to Steak and Shake and get a burger. I didn't see the halftime show. I wasn't about to watch the halftime show. It's just not my speed. And all the thing is, it just makes you mad, right? So I gave up on that. Steve Ramirez, I didn't turn it on until just before that kick. Wise move, Mr. Ramirez. Wise move. Michael Negretti, what did you think of the halftime show? I just didn't watch it. Very good there, Mr. Bill. Bill, thank you. Kendricks and Tomlinson. Darian Kendricks was great last off season, and the Rams had high hopes for him, and then he tore up his knee. So it'll be interesting to see, does he heal up and does he stay in the Rams' plans? Tomlinson, now he's lost 2 years. He had a brief spot on the field, I think in that Colts game in 2023. I think he got a holding call. They kept talking about if he was 4 inches taller, he'd have been a first-round pick. He has not shown out yet. And so it's going to be a big year for him because as a 6th rounder, the Rams have no serious investment in him. But it'll be interesting to see. Again, I hold out Emmanuel Forbes. Keep an eye on Emmanuel Forbes. Willie Bowen, why do the NFL media always have negative opinions and coverage for the Rams? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. Because I think you can say crud about the Rams because there are no true Ram fans except us. Everyone who claims to be a Ram fan, I say I get rid of 80% because they're just not roots in. They're just, they'll easily be 49er fans, so they'll easily be some other fan of some other team. Ram fans just haven't built that culture, and they won't build that culture if they keep pandering to the Snoop Dogs and the celebrities. That Brad Pitt spiel was just brutal. It moves nobody, right? And it was almost like the celebrities had to come to the Super Bowl to be seen because no one's seen their movies anymore. And so that's why it works in Philly. That's why it works in Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, Kansas City. These are blue-collar towns that they come out and they have great fan bases, and those are diehard fans. I know the Philly fans can be really obnoxious, but man, they love their team and stuff. Ram fans, as soon as they lose, they move on, right? For the most part, not this group here, like I said. And Steve would probably back me up. I go back to when I was a kid. I've been there when they booed the Rams, 7-time division winners. They boo the Rams, right? And stuff. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on Mike Negretti. Hit the like button, chat. Please do. And please hit subscribe if you haven't. Please hit share. I want to be a little slow sharing this on social media. So if somebody wants to take the link and pop it on Facebook or Twitter for me, that would be great. But I got to let my guys back in the room because they're probably going to get mad at me. And but thank you for joining me. I did not know I'd have this kind of an audience, but we'll be back on Wednesday. I was not going to be on Wednesday because I was invited. I got connection at the church in Irvine where they're hosting John Robinson's memorial service, former Ram head coach John Robinson. They're doing a memorial service for him Wednesday afternoon. But if I did that, I wouldn't be on the air at 5. And so I made a choice. So we'll be on the air at 5 and go from there. Michael Negretti, the Seal commercial was awesome. The Seal commercial was great. So was the Eugene Levy floating eyebrows. That thing was hilarious too. And the Willem Dafoe, Catherine O'Hara one was pretty good too. But boy, it seemed like there were less of those commercials and a lot more of social activism and let me preach at you that you're a bad person, good person, tell me I'm resilient and stuff. Just play football, right? Just play football. All right, guys, I got no outbound music, but I'll play the intro.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage.
Blow them off the line of scrimmage, and I will see you on Wednesday. Hit like, share, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye, guys.